Later, we hopped the train to Aguas Calientes, our base to visit Machu Picchu. The scenery was stunning and changed from desert to rainforest, and Robert and Manny pointed out many of the flora and fauna along the way. There's not much you can say about Aguas Calientes that's positive. The place is exploding with underregulated development, which I suppose should be expected. It's a poor country with really only one big tourist draw, Machu Picchu. Luckily for us, we were staying in what appeared to be the nicest place in town. The compound was filled with lush foliage and waterfalls, and all the rooms had fireplaces. The rhythm and sounds of the forest surrounding us, a totally peaceful setting, only to be broken by the annoying Manny and the man-eaters. Oh, and a few trains. The next morning, we boarded a bus, and then through a long series of switchbacks, we finally arrived at the most impressive of all ancient Inca sites, Machu Picchu. I was especially interested in photographing this great city from a unique vantage point, to capture it from a different angle, one never seen before. Tell us about how it was when you first discovered Machu Picchu.
Well, it was 1911. I was working for Yale. Now, everybody sent one to Robert.
So when they discovered the mummies here, was there anybody you knew personally?
Not really. An old boyfriend I had missed a long time ago, but never knew where he went, but I guess this is it.
What do you think of Angkor Wat now that you've seen it?
I like the tut-tuts.
All in all, Machu Picchu is much larger than we had expected, and more advanced. It's believed that its inhabitants moved out of the city so as not to bring attention to it. And apparently that tactic worked. The Spanish never did find it. And we didn't know about it until Hiram Bingham was shown it in 1911. Since it was a planned move, very little was left behind, and that's why there are so few artifacts. Back in Aguas Calientes, we walked to a botanical garden and the Machu Picchu Museum. The road followed a river, which may or may not lead to the Amazon, but just might lead to Amazon.com. On the train again and heading back to Cusco. It was about a 4-hour trip, but I loved every minute of it. And one thing we weren't expecting was entertainment. After a while, the people who took our tickets and served us food were putting on a fashion show. Our model couldn't quite decide how to react to our enthusiasm, but it reminded me of another trip we'd taken, with a slightly different take on things. The train actually arrives in Cusco at a higher elevation, and had to lower itself in a slow process using switchbacks to descend the mountain. On our last day together as a group, we were brought to more Inca sites, and I'm sure they all were great. But after Machu Picchu, everything else was downhill.
They take it. They handle.
So when you eat this now, then afterwards you
Manny knew all the good places to eat, and in general we found the food, or at least the tourist food, to be very good. And we knew that guinea pig was a favorite food of people in the Andes, but hadn't yet run into it. Jamie bought the flute this man is playing, and this video? Proof that if it doesn't sound good, it's not the instrument's fault. Our last dinner together, and this time guinea pig was on the menu. So Rod, what'd you think of Peru? Yeah.
Really liked it.
And what'd you think about the guinea pig? And so the tour was coming to an end. A great tour and a great guide, Manny, who really made it enjoyable. We'd do it again in a heartbeat.
It was Machu Picchu.